Today we're going to be talking about using your camera system as an alarm system. If your security cameras can detect motion and you have motion detectors in your alarm system, well, why can't you just save the money you would spend on an alarm system and just use the cameras as your motion detection source? Some people call it location arming. And basically what this does is you can virtually arm your property using all the cameras that you have. So that way, if one of the cameras detects motion, like it normally does, it can send you an alert and basically, have a virtual alarm that it sends you via push notification or email or whatever have you. It can be used as like a standalone alarm system. It can also trigger an alarm system if you have that too. The question is, do you see this as a viable alternative? Is this a bad idea? Is it cool or just stupid?
It is cool, but look, the thing is that nobody wants to spend more money than they need to. I have had some clients ask, can we do this? Can we just utilize cameras? Does that make sense? And they're not trying to be cheap. They're just wondering, are they paying for an extra thing they don't need to with a alarm system? The thing is that an alarm system is going to have sensors that do, first of all, they're going to have sensors that do a lot more than motion detection.
That was going to be my point, yeah.
Right, well, because you have the motion detection, you have door sensors, flood sensors, you have a whole smoke sensor, all kinds of sensors, and it makes sense just to have one system that handles all of those types of things. Plus, only an alarm system can call police and do dispatch for you based on those things. A security camera system won't. So if you want that, you're better off with the alarm system. The other thing is that security cameras don't detect motion the way a motion sensor detects motion.
That's true.
So a security camera, let's say you have all the lights out and it doesn't have night vision, it's not going to see anything at night. A motion sensor is much less expensive than a security camera. So when that breaks, you don't have to replace a much more expensive device. So there's a whole bunch of reasons, and I think the way that alarm systems and alarm sensors are used is going to be very different in most scenarios than what you're trying to do with the CCTV system.
Yeah.
And so it does make things a lot easier, more simple, and just better off spending a couple extra, maybe a few $100 more and just getting the sensors for the alarm system. But there are some versions where I think a camera would be very useful, especially if you're using it almost exclusively for the alarm detection, like perimeter detection.
Sure.
When if you have a camera that's aimed down a fence line, one problem with a lot of fence detection systems is that they can have a lot of false alarms because the fence is rattling around and it sets off the fence detection system.
Sure.
But a security camera is just looking for something to cross over the line. You aim it down the fence line, and in the software you have just a straight line, and anything that crosses over sets an output, and you have that output go to the alarm system. In that case, you're primarily using the camera as your alarm system.
And you could use, say, like a thermal camera. A lot of like fence line perimeter detection will also add a thermal camera as an extra layer for like nighttime stuff, because infrared's not necessarily going to see that far. So they'll go thermal on, say, boundary lines. And that would actually get you a little closer to how a motion detector would work. So, not to get super technical, but a camera is going to detect motion it looks for basically changes in the different pixels that the camera is taking in. So obviously it's going to need light to see that. Usually a camera is going to use infrared lights, which is all those little like glowing kind of reddish looking lights around the edge of a camera you'll see. A motion detector for an alarm system that you would have in your house is typically looking for a heat signature of some sort. So, if a person walks by, you always are putting off heat, assuming you're alive. Using a thermal camera kind of matches how the motion detector would do it, right? So that could work.
Yeah.
Don't patronize me.
That's a good point. It's a good point, though. The two are more same.
Similars.
That would be a fun camera to play with. We don't do that much with thermal because there's not that many customers that want a camera that has such a weird looking image.
Yeah, the image is not usable in the sense of what most people would think. It's a very
You aren't using that in the courtroom.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen,
yeah.
look at this thing. It looks like what the Predator sees, from the Alien
Mm-hmm.
movies.
Well, you can have black and white thermal, and then you can have the colorful thermal, which is usually like yellows and purples kind of a vibe, just like you would see in the movies or whatever. There is some thermal cameras that are really good. Like you'll see, if you ever watch some of the thermals that they have on the police helicopters, where they overlay and they have like a live map. It's almost like Google Maps. That's like live overlay of the image, no matter where they point the camera. And if they zoom in good, they can make out a lot of details with the thermal camera. If you're only trying to trip an alarm, say somebody climbed over the fence and all you need to know is object went over this line, it's perfect.
What's going on?
So, and the other thing that you're going to miss with only using cameras as an alarm system is, as you mentioned before, with the door contacts, flood sensors, all that stuff, there's a lot of times with an alarm system, you're going to want to have the door contacts on all your doors, because then in your, like in the history of, online, you can see when the doors were opened and closed and stuff like that. So it creates like a log of kind of what's going on. And if you're just using cameras, I mean, yeah, you have the visual log, but it's a lot harder to go back. You have to watch all that video to see what's going on, instead of just having, a list of, front door open at 9:02 a.m., kitchen door open at this, whatever, just a regular alarm system is better.
It is, because with an alarm system, it's very easy to use wireless sensors all over. And if you use the camera system, you have to run a cable to the alarm system. The problem is that now you have to run that cable, and then the cost for someone to run that cable might end up being more than the cost of the motion detector that was wireless. There are wireless sensors that take a wired input, so you could put that wireless sensor by the camera.
That is true.
But if you're buying a wireless sensor anyway, you could just buy the wireless motion sensor. The only thing I can imagine it for is where you are specifically going to use the camera for the alarm, not trying to get the alarm as a secondary benefit.
Yeah.
But that's what the camera is for. Like a camera that is set up to catch loitering, you might use that as your alarm sensor, because there is no alarm sensor to detect loitering. There's just the camera.
That's true.
Can do the analytic.
We have done that and it works well. Anyhow.
And if you think this episode worked well, why don't you go ahead and like it so that we know, and share it so your friends know.
Bye.